decision, and the reality that judges in this country are not in a position to judge Aboriginal matters because they have a vested interest. There's no third-party adjudication. And he would talk about this 1704 ruling, Connecticut versus Mohegan, where Queen Anne's Privy Council actually said the judges of Connecticut can't be deciding on the Mohegans' land claims. And he would talk about the Royal Proclamation of 1763, and he would talk about the Genocide Convention, and he would go into court and say, "Excuse me, Your Honor, you have no jurisdiction here, and you're guilty of complicity in genocide and misprison of treason." Eh? And he was sent to a mental institution in the case, and Ramsey Clark was involved in that case, and that's when I got involved with splitting this guy. So, you know, it occurred to us the way Clark would talk about these historic precedents and laws, and people just lose it. They say, well, that's back then. Come on, this is now. This is modern day times. So in our modern day times, are we going to go to Michael Ignatieff or to Jack Layton and say, look at what's happened here in Calgary. I think we've got to deal with some things in our criminal justice system. Our criminal justice system is acting pretty criminal these days. And what are we going to do about it? Are we going to go to the United Nations and stand outside with placards? We may do so. But inside the United Nations are these nation states, and the officials in these nation states are so deeply complicit and involved in paying out our tax money for this national security state, for this organized crime, for war profiteers. What are we to do as humanity in this situation when we can see? I mean, imagine nowadays the banality of evil with drones, with somebody in Florida at a computer board programming in things. And what are drones there to do? I mean, is the drone going to say, oh, that one there, that Al-Qaeda one, boop, and there's some children, I'll leave them out, and there's a little Al-Qaeda one, boop, I'll kill that one. No, they're in there to do ethnic cleansing. Yeah. That's obviously, they're clearing out the valley. Get out of there, we're setting up our military base, and nobody's really responsible. Just the people at the computers. I mean, talk about Hannah Arendt, the banality of evil, the bureaucratization of genocide. What are we to do? What the fuck are we to do?
Shut down General Dynamics. We're going to make the smart part of the bombs in Calgary.
Well, I'm suggesting that we can try to articulate, to have a process coming out of this trial, which we knew would only have a kind of partial window into what's really happening here. And the reality is, you know, we really can't expect to go to those who are supposed to be representing us and say, oh, please, Miss Congresswoman, represent us. I see war crimes going on. There you are, you're in the Congress. Well, you're not in the Congress anymore. And how come you're not in the Congress? And who's there to sit in your seat? And, you know, is there any difference now between our members of Parliament and our congressmen and these PR companies? I mean, they're all patronage clients for the war machine, especially in the United States, but we're going into that business too. Yeah. So I'm proposing, and I don't know where this leads, but Carol Bouillet has taken this up. She says, come on down to San Francisco, the mother of the truthers, really. And Carol Bouillet decided not to run for Congress. She's starting her radio show, and the three of us are going on her radio show on Thursday. And on my cell phone, about 2 hours ago, Carol said, and nobody has heard this, including this man here, she said, well, I need a co-host for my show. Carol Bouillet in Silicon Valley, and I'd like STS to be the co-host of my show. And STS has put himself on the line. This man needs a little bit of rest now, and a little bit of people around him who will take it on a bit, a little bit of shielding, a little bit of comfort, a little bit of ability to raise his family and not have to take the full, you know, extremity of the stuff that can be thrown at you. And of all of peoples of the world, you know, the fact that these two people here are here as healthy and able and clear-minded and haven't faced debilitating interventions somehow came through. They faced many debilitating interventions, and somehow through their strength of character, and I'm sure the love of people around you, somehow were able to be with us here tonight. But it's not, we can't put everything on their shoulders. We got to take some of it ourselves. So I just as a sort of abstract idea, let's think about the Calgary principles. Let's take the name of this new frontier town. I mean, look at the energy in this town. Metaphorically, actually, it doesn't have to all be directed into the war machine, into the military-industrial complex. We have minds, we have critical, we have hearts, we have love, and we're in a very privileged position. Look at us, look at our complexions, look at, the clothes we're wearing and the health care we can receive. Like, not many people in the world are in a position to be able to get together, and we can speak, and we've got to use this. We got to use this. These are our rights. They're not given to us, and here we are. We're using it. This is a new era. That judge, the piece that Joshua Blakeney wrote called Manfred DeLong meets Splitting the Sky. It's going out viral. The report on day one of the internet. This Manfred DeLong, Judge DeLong, probably has never received the publicity like he is going to receive in the next week, 2 or 3. So, he is making the judgment now. But do we depend on Judge DeLong to come up with the juridical principles, the law that is going to somehow make it possible for our kids to live through this? I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to work with people, whether they be in San Francisco, in London, in Russia, in Africa, and we have a lot of contacts right here, right now, coming together in this room, and stand here in Calgary, Alberta, this oil and gas town, this cowboy town. Ramsey Clark said, well, it's kind of a cool idea, like a cowboy town. Let's turn that around. Let's give Calgary a different reputation. Let's not say Stephen Harper is our guy. No, we want to deal with the war criminals, and he is covering up for war criminals. He and George Bush, with their complicity on Omar Khadr. Omar Khadr was 15 years old when he was picked up. He's a child soldier. Do we have laws in the world about inducting children, arming them, and then putting them in military situations? Yes, we do have laws. And George Bush and Stephen Harper are together in spitting in contempt on the international laws prohibiting the induction of child soldiers. And Omar Khadr is being punished and setting an example. I mean, the International Criminal Court, with all those prosecutions of warlords in Congo who are inducting child soldiers. But who's on top of that system? Who's enabling that system? Who's funding them? Who's flying in their arms? Like, I've studied Eastern Congo a lot. That is ground zero. That is the epicenter where you have companies actually paying militias to, guard their little coltan mines and kill out the surrounding people. And, it's in Africa. These are black people. They'll never care in the end. Well, we're watching this. So I don't know where the Calgary principles might lead. And I don't say I know what it should say, but I know we're living in a time where crime, organized crime, has become so much more complex. And where the instruments that are supposed to be our law enforcers are doing the opposite. And I don't know what we're supposed to do as humanity, but at least we could start to think about articulating some principles that would enable us to deal with these situations in our own time. They dealt with it in Nuremberg. Ramsey Clark was in Nuremberg when he was 18 years old. Are we in a time where we can be complacent? Are we in a time where we've transcended all that capacity of humanity that we saw in the Nazi regime, to exercise brutality and racial hatred? Have we moved beyond that? I mean, that's one of the most ruthless things about the global war on terror, because first and foremost,